This is The Runwave, candid chats with real runners about topics that affect the running community. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Runwave podcast. I am your host, Kim. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. If you are a return listener, welcome back. I am so happy to have you. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to follow The Runwave on all social platforms. We are The Runwave on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X as they call it now. You can find us at The Runwave everywhere online. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I wanted to continue the conversation with a breast cancer survivor, Erica Saunders. She is a six-star finisher. She had a battle with breast cancer some years ago, and she tells us her story of her diagnosis, her treatment plan, and what she has been doing to advocate for women and men who are potentially going through breast cancer, and just preventative measures that we should all be taking, women and men, going forward in our life. So tune in right now. So welcome, Erica Saunders, to the Runway Podcast. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am doing good. Long time no see.
I know it's been a minute. I've been seeing you on Facebook, but not in person.
Facebook is like the place where we keep in contact, right?
Exactly.
I don't think I've seen you since London.
No,
When
not
was
since
that?
London. October. It seems like last year.
It seems like so long. Like I've been to London after we did the marathon, but it seems like a long time ago when we were there.
It does.
I think more so because it was like we did it at an off time instead of like April. We did it in October, so it was a little weird. But yeah, that was a good
Still
time.
fun. Yes, definitely had a good time.
So what have you been up to? I saw you were at the race last week.
Yeah, so I've been not running as much. I've started swimming a little bit more, getting into triathlon. So that's my new thing, cycling and swimming.
I love swimming. I don't like cycling all that much, but
It's expensive. I didn't realize how
girl,
expensive cycling is.
listen, we get into these little hobbies, and then when you start getting things like, did you get a bike yet?
Yeah, I had a bike gifted to me. My girlfriend bought me a bike but still all the accessories, and I'm just used to sneakers, lacing up and getting out the door. Like it's not that complicated, but with cycling it's a little bit more detailed.
I remember when I got my bike, I was like, I rode it for the first time. It's like my butt hurts. So you have to get a different, like I pay for the bike. It came with a seat, but I have to buy another seat. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot. So how was the race?
It was good. Those hills in Atlanta ain't loyal. I would just say if you're not trained up on the hills, you're in for a rude awakening. So I
Mm-hmm.
I didn't train for I mean, I think the most distance I did was maybe 8 miles. So to go to Atlanta and the hills, they got me. But it's always a fun time just to be with run cousins.
Yeah. And every time we're there together, I always say that I'm gonna come with you to hike Stone Mountain in the morning, and it just
It's that
it never
sunrise part.
happens.
It's the sunrise
Listen,
part.
it has not happened one time. I always say I'm gonna get up and go, but just like always hanging out the night before. I don't know how you do it, but you make it every year. You make it to the top of Sunrise Mountain before or after? Before.
After, the day after the
After.
race. Yep.
That's why I don't make
It's
it.
beautiful. I enjoy it. I enjoy the just watching the sunrise. And it's a mile hike, so it's not long. So I enjoy
It's
it.
not long and it's not hard either. I find like
No.
people like say it's like the tough. I don't know. Maybe they're new at getting out there or whatever. But I think it's a fairly My son went up. And he's 8. He's 9 now. He went up when he was 8. So yeah,
Okay.
he loved it. So let's get into who you are. Tell me a little bit about you. Where are you from?
So I was born in Chester, PA, which is a small city right outside of Philadelphia. Pretty much right after I was born, my parents moved to Delaware, which I've been here for the rest of my life. So Delaware is home. I work for Bank of America as a commercial credit analyst. I've been with the bank for 31 years.
Wow.
I know that we'll talk about my breast cancer journey, but that led me into advocacy with breast cancer. I work part-time with an amazing group of women at the Delaware Breast Cancer Coalition. And my job as a survivorship specialist is to support men and women in the state that have been diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mhm. So how was it growing up in Delaware? I don't meet a lot of people from Delaware.
It's funny when I travel, people say Delaware, like who? The first state, come on. Our president has put us on the map.
That is true.
Yes.
So how was that?
But I like Delaware. I think it's centrally located. First of all, it's the home of tax-free shopping. So I love when I go to the register and it says 99 cents, I'm paying 99 cents. I'm not paying a
Mhm.
dollar for a dollar five. So tax-free shopping I love. I love that it's centrally located. So if I want to go north, I can go to New York, I can go to
Mhm.
Philly. South, I have Baltimore, I have, DC. So it's in between a lot of great places.
Mhm.
And I like the community. We're small, but I like it here.
So what is like what town did you grow up in there?
Newcastle, Newcastle,
Newcastle.
Delaware.
So what is like the racial makeup of that city?
I would say it's culturally diverse. A little bit of everything.
Mhm. Okay. And you've been at Bank of America like forever.
Yeah.
What did you start as when you started there?
So when I started at Bank of America, I was 19. My father actually was working there part time, and he recommended that I go because they were offering good salary at the time, 7.47 an hour. And so I was a telemarketer. So I
Wait,
was
you remember that number too?
7.47. I remember that number. So I started part time when I was in school as a telemarketer. So I would sell credit cards, and then I switched over to full time, and I've done a number of different things since I've been full time in the last 31 years. So
Mhm. Nice. So are you eyeing retirement soon?
that's in the plans. I have to get these kiddos through college first, but yes, that is definitely in the plan.
Mhm. And how many kids do you have?
Four. So
Four.
my oldest is Raymond, and he's 23. I have a 21-year-old daughter, Renee, and twin boys, Ruben and Robert, who are 18. They're in their freshman year of college. And a grandson,
Wow.
and a grandson.
Oh, how old is your grandson?
He'll be 2 in January. My pride and
Okay.
joy. That's my baby.
Nice, nice. And how do your kids feel about your running adventures?
They've been really supportive. They know. They already know mom is crazy, so wherever she says we're going, we're going. They've come with me. Where did we go? We went to Niagara Falls as a family. They were there for my first half marathon, my first full marathon. So they accompany me and support me.
That's nice. So when did you first get into running? Do you like remember the time, the place, the year? What was the
Yeah.
catalyst that got you started?
So the catalyst was hypertension for me. There was one. So my employer requires that we take annual assessments, health assessments, which is like a blood pressure screening, cholesterol, sugar. And I remember the one day that I went for my screening, I had a horrible headache. It was raining really hard, and I was just irritated. Like, I don't know why we have to do this. But I
Hmm.
went, got there, and the technician took my blood pressure, and she looked at the number, and she looked at me, and she said, "Are you feeling okay?" I said, "I have a headache, but I feel fine." And she told me at that point that my blood pressure was within stroke range, and she was really
Oh
concerned.
my.
And so that was essentially my wake up call. I started working out on my own, just going to the gym, elliptical, doing different things. And then I heard about a group, Black Girls Run, and the rest is history. I joined the group, and I went from, well, we have a New Year's Day meetup every year. And I went to that New Year's Day 2015, and I never looked back. I ran my first half marathon in March of 2015, and then my first full marathon was Philadelphia in November of that year. So was kind of just like I fell in love with the process. And I went from running the full marathon. I had my first taste of the world major experience in 2016. I ran Chicago Marathon, and your dreams and your goals evolve over time. And so I ran.
Wait, so you started in 2015 and then you ran
Mhm.
Chicago the next year.
Yeah.
So you were like off to the races quick.
And becoming a world major finisher was never a goal of mine. But when the fear of missing out, when you see your friends,
Mm-hmm.
I would say Heather King, definitely I watched her throughout her journey. And I ran um, Boston in 2017. And at that time, my only goal was to run Boston. But again, when I see Heather, I see Lillian.
Wait, but why? Why? I need to know what the fascination with Boston is. I keep asking people this and I get different answers. But what's the fascination with Boston?
It's Boston. That's
I don't
like
get
the
it.
top of the top. You don't get it? You did
I
it.
don't. I did it, but I don't get it. Like even when I was there, I was like, "What is the big deal? What is the big deal?"
It was just, it's like the top of the top. You get to run Boston. That's like the big thing. For me
And
anyway.
see, when I started running, I didn't even. No one talked about Boston. Like no one was doing 6 stars back then. Like when you did it, there was like really nobody doing 6 stars back then. It was like you saw people here and there once in a while. You may have saw a friend get it and you wonder what that was, but nobody was talking about 6 stars back then, and there's certainly no one was qualifying for Boston back then.
Right.
So like what was the allure for you? I mean, it I guess it's Boston.
That the
Okay.
prestige. That was
Prestige.
basically it. Yeah. And but I will say I would have walked away from it because I thought fundraising $10,000 to run a race was the craziest thing on earth.
Girl.
But my friends and family rallied behind me and supported my efforts, and I did it. And so 2017 I did Boston, and I was like, well, seeing, Heather and Lillian and them, I said, well, I'm already two down. I might as well just go
Mhm.
for it. So,
Mhm.
that was when I decided after running Boston that I wanted to pursue the world majors. And so that's when it
So
started.
who did you fundraise for Boston?
261 Fearless. They're a women's group. I don't know if you've heard of Catherine Switzer. She was one of the
Mhm.
first women to run the Boston Marathon. So, yeah.
And how did you raise $10,000? Your network must be strong and long to raise $10,000.
Well, I did put a portion of that up front on my own, but
Mm-hmm.
so about 2,500 came from myself, and then the rest I ended up actually making 12,000, a little over 12,000, but the rest of that came
Wow.
from
So you did raise 10,000 essentially.
yeah,
That's
through the
awesome. Like,
support of my friends and family. I definitely could not have done it without them, and I'm so appreciative because it just helped me to reach a goal that I never would have dreamed possible. So it was
mhm.
it was exciting.
So after you did Chicago, Boston, what was next after that?
I think 2018 was Berlin and then New York.
Yeah, how did you feel about Berlin? Because I always get it's probably my least favorite city that of the majors, but I always get like mixed reviews of Berlin. So what did you think of it?
See, and it's funny you say that because when I think about all of the majors, I always get the question, which one did you like the best? And that's a hard question for me to answer because I think
Hmm.
each of them was special in its own way. I loved Berlin, and I think mainly because of the people that I shared the experience with. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I loved the people there that I was with, and one of my roommates, I call her Twinny, Adia. She was with me. I met some of my favorites for the first time there, and it was just a great experience. I loved Berlin.
So what year were you, Berlin?
2018.
Oh, so you did it the year. I think I did it in 27. I can't get these years straight. I need to sit down and do a resume because I think I did it in 2017. You might have been the second year of Berlin Blackish, right?
Yes, I think I might have been the second.
Okay, so you
Either
were
second or
like
third.
that second year was like huge for like black runners, and like when we did it, it was like 20 of us. But when
Yeah,
y'all did it that next year, it was like
it was a
the
big
group
group.
picture from one year to the next was like crazy. So you had a good, so you know, the people that you go with, and that makes your experience like even better when you do
Absolutely.
these majors, when you have, you
Absolutely.
know, people that look like you that are out there, and just the overall, the whole weekend, you know, however long you're there, just builds to the entire experience. So after Berlin, what did you do?
New York,
New York City. Now,
and
what did
I
you
was
think of New
back to
York?
back. Okay, so here's my New York. That was my hardest of all the majors. New
Mm-hmm.
York is no joke. Those bridges. I remember seeing you at the start. We took pictures, and
Mm-hmm.
I went the wrong way. I think I was supposed to go up, and I went down. And
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it was hard. That was a tough race for me, and especially running back to back marathons. I don't know how these distance people do it,
I
but
don't know either.
yeah, from September to November, it was tough for me. That was
Mm-hmm.
one of my slowest times, and I just was grateful that I finished. I said I made the cutoff, and and that was pretty much it with New York. I would love to do it again, but no.
And you know what? When you say you don't know how people do it, like those people that can do it, they're just naturally, you know, gifted in running. Because I did a half Ironman, then I did Chicago, and then I tried to do New York. By the time I got to New York, it was over.
Yeah,
Because you need proper recovery time. It's like it's the body is not meant to take a pounding like every month for 26 miles. It just it's they yeah, they make it look easy, but it really isn't. And I'm glad you said that, because people try to mimic that, and it's just it's an unattainable thing to do.
it's very hard. Yeah.
It's so hard. So after New York, what did you get?
So it was London. London was the last one, and COVID hit. So
Mm,
I actually did the virtual London, but they didn't count that for the majors. So
mm-hmm.
um, I actually, I want to say 2021 did the virtual London, and then when I was able to do it in person, 2022 was London.
And I was there in 2022.
And you were there, and you and McKinley got me to the finish because I was struggling at the end.
We London was easy, but it was hard too. I mean, the course is pretty I think it's pretty flat. It has its little bit of, you know, up and down. But I think once you get so far in the majors, like you like for me, like I kind of lost it with the last two. It wasn't like as exciting as, you know, going for it. And you're so much like that was 10 years ago. We were like 10 years younger then. You know, it was easier then as you get older. I mean, people make it look easy, but it really is not easy. But yeah, London, how did you like the city?
I love London. London, I would definitely. I want to go back just for the shopping and to experience the different cultures. I didn't do a lot of that when I was there because we're focused on racing. But I definitely want to go back to cheer a friend and go support someone, and also just take in the experience, the shopping. Like we did the bus tours and like the hop on, hop off type thing.
Hmm.
So it was nice. I like London.
So what's up next for you run wise? Do you have any other goals that you want to accomplish?
So I'm working on my triathlons. So my next race will be an Olympic tri, which is in December here in well, locally in Pennsylvania. So
In the cold?
yeah,
Where's the swim?
it's in
What?
a, it's in a pool, so
Oh, okay,
it's
okay,
not
okay.
outside. Yeah, that's the
So
only
it's a
type of
swim.
tries. That's my disclaimer. I'm a pool triathlete at this point. I haven't graduated to the open water swim yet, but
Listen, that's how my first triathlon was in a pool. That's how you start, baby steps, you know. So wait a minute, you swim? Is it an outside running bike?
I believe so. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's so. How many tries have you done so far,
two.
and all in the pool?
hmm
Have you found like a local tri group in your city?
No, no, I've been self-training. I've been doing a lot by myself.
Yeah, see that's the hard part of try. It's just like with running, but with triathlon, I think you more so really need like a support system and people that are going through the same thing and that can guide you. So have you looked up any try groups in your
I mean, I'm in a lot of them, but a lot of the groups don't really post a lot of information. So I'm a YouTube, like I watch different YouTube videos, and like I said, I pretty much learn what I've learned on my own. And
Mhm,
there are I've gotten with some cycling, like there are local cycling groups that I participate in. So um, it's not solely on my own. The swimming pretty much has been, I took lessons at the Y, um, and learned, and then once I learned, I just kind of built on my endurance, and
mhm.
on my own. Cycling, I have joined a group here in Delaware called Cycle Sisters, and we go out I haven't gone a lot with them. Just when my schedule permits, I try to join up with them.
Mhm. Well, keep at it because I, you know, try makes you a better runner. It's the overall, it improves your overall endurance, but everyone starts somewhere and don't knock doing the pool tries because that's how you begin. And once spring hits, you start doing your little open water, I found it easier because I don't like the open water either. I don't like the ocean. But if you can find like a lake or a bay of the ocean to swim in, that's more calmer. That's like a easier way to ease you into triathlon. But if you ever want to do a half Ironman, consider Ironman Eagle Man.
Now, where's that?
It's in Maryland.
Okay.
So it's half the Ironman Maryland course is just two of the Eagle Man course. But you can talk to McKinley. That's like he just did the full there. He's done Eagle Man as well. But the swim is like it's in a I don't know what it is exactly because it's salt water, but it's kind of a bay. So it's calm. And most of the time I think wore a wetsuit. I can't remember if I had a wetsuit. No, it's not wetsuit legal because it's really hot that time of year. So it's not wetsuit legal. So that's like the only drawback of it, and it is extremely hot, but it's like a really good first triathlon course because the swim is nice, the bike is flat, the run is flat. So keep that one in mind if you
Taking
ever.
notes. Taking
Yeah,
notes.
that one's a good one to do.
I forgot to talk about Tokyo. I forgot about Tokyo. I did Tokyo after New York in 2019. So,
Okay.
yeah,
And
I
what'd you
forgot
think
to
about
mention that.
Tokyo?
I liked it. It was a smaller group of us. I loved the food. Um, what else did I like about Tokyo? It rained a lot there, so I didn't get to sightsee a lot.
Really?
Yeah, it poured the day of the race, which is why I got my PR. I was over it. I was wanting to get
Oh
done,
no.
but again, I enjoyed the experience. There, like I said, I've enjoyed each of the majors, but all of them for a different reason. But yeah, I enjoyed that one too.
I can't even imagine doing that boring course in the rain.
Yeah, it poured the whole time. From start to finish, it poured.
And people don't realize, like, of the majors, Tokyo is quiet. There's no cheer squads. There you might see a few people, but they're not making noise. There's no confetti. There is no DJs.
No, especially not in the rain.
Can you? I couldn't even imagine. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Tokyo was like probably my favorite city of all of them, though. Probably because the
Okay.
food. I'm greedy. I'm greedy.
Yeah, I like the food too. And that ramen is not the ramen that we eat here. The ramen is off
Listen,
the
I was
chain.
eating ramen twice a day. Twice a day in Tokyo. It is so good and cheap too.
Yes.
I could live there. All right, so I wanted to have you on the show because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And while I know that you've gone through breast cancer, I don't really know your story. So I want to hear everything. Like how did you when were you first diagnosed?
So right after Boston, actually. And the crazy thing is, I found the lump, and breast cancer was the last thing on my mind. I mean, I was physically in the best shape of my life. My mammograms were all up to date. So, I didn't think anything about breast cancer. But I'm so grateful that I didn't ignore the signs. I felt it was a hard lump, like the shape of a pea. And it was in my breast, and it was really hard and it was painful to the touch.
Mm.
So I contacted my OBGYN, and I'm grateful that she and I have a great relationship. I mean, she's been with me for the last 30 years. And so I told her, I found this lump, and I'm grateful that she didn't dismiss my symptoms, because I've just in working in breast cancer advocacy, that's a common theme that I hear, is that, especially for younger Black women, that doctors don't really take their concerns seriously. But
Mhm.
for me, my doctor right away said, okay, let's get some follow up testing. So I had an ultrasound, I had an MRI, I had the biopsy, and then the biopsy is what confirmed the stage 1 breast cancer. So it was a rough patch. It was challenging. I always say, for the 40 and over crowd who can relate to Charlie Brown, after I heard the words "you have cancer," it was like the teacher and Charlie Brown. Womp 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 womp. Everything
Mhm.
after that for me was a blur. Like, I was literally like a walking zombie. I would forget different appointments. I forget, different co-pays and things that I had to take care of. And so, I had an awesome support system. My friends stepped in, my mother stepped in and assumed care, and helped me, decipher through. They hand you this big 3-ring binder once you get diagnosed, and it's overwhelming. And so I'm grateful that I had the support that I did, because that helped the diagnosis and the treatment go a lot easier.
So after you were diagnosed, like what was the next step?
So they do genetic counseling, to see, if you have a genetic defect, and I didn't. Um, and then you kind of work with your oncologist to determine the best course of treatment. And so I did get 2 different opinions. So I ended up going to the University of Penn for my treatment. I just felt that my first doctor, she was more concerned with her 50th class reunion than she was my treatment. And so
Mm.
I wasn't that turned me off. And my doctor at Penn, he was very, like, he came in the room. You know how you just get a feeling for someone when you meet
Mhm.
them for the first
Mhm.
time? Um, I felt really confident. I did research his credentials. So I looked up, where he went to school and things of that nature. And he came from one of the top, Sloan Kettering, which is one of the top cancer hospitals. And so I just felt more comfortable with him and with the hospital. Penn is a teaching hospital, so they do a lot of cutting edge treatments. And so that was where I opted to get my treatment. And so the course of action was the same for both doctors. The recommendation was a lumpectomy, which is a breast conservation procedure where they only take out the lump and the surrounding tissue to make sure that the margins are clear. So I ended up having the lumpectomy and then 5 weeks of radiation after the surgery. So that was the same course of action that both doctors recommended. So I felt confident that that was the way to go, and so that's what I did.
Mhm. So you didn't have to have any chemo?
No, no chemo.
So what exactly is radiation? Because I hear it all the time. I've never, you watch TV shows and they glorify, getting chemo and things like that, but I never really see anything about radiation. So what exactly is it? And what did you have
Well,
to go through?
it's it's a localized method of treatment. It's similar to getting an X-ray, but on a much larger scale. For some people, radiation it affects everyone differently. For me, I really didn't have many side effects other than um, my breast looked like I had sunburn. But I've seen a lot of other cases that have been much more severe, where the skin is actually burned. It's scabs. It's not pretty at all. I was fortunate to not have a lot of the other symptoms that some of the other women have experienced. But um, it's a localized form of treatment. That's what I would say.
So is it like a machine? Is it medication?
Yeah, it's a
The
machine,
machine?
and it
Okay.
delivers a ray specific. So you have to get I have they're called tattoos because it's basically a marking to show where the radiation beam is going to be focused. And so you go through that when you're getting ready for radiation. They do the tattooing to ensure that the laser is focused in the right spot. And you go through the practice just to know what it's like. I had to do what's called a breath holding technique. So because the cancer was in my left breast, which is underneath my heart, so you have to be cautious with that type of treatment so that your heart isn't damaged. So I did what's called a breath holding technique, where you hold your breath, and while you're holding your breath, they deliver the radiation to the affected area. And so
Hmm.
um, yeah, and it's all done via machine and the
So is it like
technicians.
one shot? Are you sitting there for an hour? Like what is the process like?
So the waiting
Not
is
shot, but
the waiting room and changing takes longer than the actual process. It's literally like
Really?
yeah, it's literally like not even a minute long. You hold your breath, they administer the radiation, and then you're done. Yeah,
So post radiation, what were your next steps after that?
that was it. I have to take a medication. So the type of cancer that I had was estrogen positive. So I'm on an estrogen blocking medication called tamoxifen, and I will be on that, well, after my diagnosis, 10 years. So I'm year 6 now on tamoxifen. And so there are side effects with that. You have joint pain, fatigue, things of that nature. And again, it does affect everyone differently. But I mean, when you think of the alternative,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll take a little fatigue and joint pain. So,
Is the medication a daily something
hmm
that you have to
yeah,
take daily?
yes.
Okay. Wow. And you have to take it for 10 years.
hmm
So what are your screens like going forward? Do you have to get mammograms? For sure I'm certain about that, but is there anything else that you have to do in addition to that?
Yeah. So, anytime you have a breast cancer diagnosis, they like to watch you because the first 5 years after diagnosis are critical because
Mm-hmm.
that's the time that a recurrence could happen, meaning you get re-diagnosed. So, my course of action every 6 months, I alternate between a mammogram and an MRI. And then something also to note, black women, and not just black women, that we're characteristic of having what's called dense breast. And sometimes mammograms can't pick up on any types of issues because of the density of our breasts. So
Mm-hmm.
in those cases, I definitely recommend women talk to their medical professionals to see if a different type of screening would be better, specifically if you do have what's called dense breast, which I do.
Mm-hmm. So when you self-diagnosed,
hmm
that's how you found the lump, and then you went to your doctor. So the doctor, she a female doctor.
Yes, my
Yeah.
OBGYN. Yep,
Are you still with her today?
yep, love her to
That's
death.
good. That's
hmm
good. Yeah, like I had I don't know if you got a chance to listen to my last interview that I did with Kim, but she said that when she was, she self-examined as well, and her doctors, they told her like to wait, and see what happens, and yours was like the opposite. So
Yeah,
it's go ahead.
it's more often than not I hear stories like hers. And that's why I said I was fortunate because I have a great relationship with my OBGYN, and she listened to me. I said I have an issue, and she didn't. I mean, she could have said, "Oh, it might be a cyst, just your mammograms are up to date." No, she followed up with the testing, and that confirmed the cancer. So it's important for me to let women know that you have to advocate for yourself, and you have
Mm-hmm.
to be able to speak up. Nobody knows your body more than you. And so when you see something that's out of normal, it's really up to you to sound the alarm. Make sure that your medical professionals are aware. And if they're not listening, go to the next level. Don't let the one doctor be the end all be all, because it could be a matter of life and death.
Mm-hmm. So your kids were still not too young, but fairly young during this time, how did they handle it?
I think my kids handled it well. For me, it was important to be transparent about everything that was going on. So I don't think that my kids ever were sad. Well, I'm sure they were, but maybe not visibly. Um, and for me, like I said, it was important to really share the diagnosis, and especially with my daughter, because now I want her to be very proactive, um, and then just making sure that she's getting checked and as she needs to, and yeah, so they were good. They were good.
Hmm. Was there any history of breast cancer or any other type of cancer in your family?
No. And the other thing, it was funny because when I went to get my genetic testing done, um, the genetic counselor would ask me questions about my family. And
Hmm.
my mother was there at the time, and she would say, Aunt such and such had this, and such and such. But we didn't talk about it, and I
Hmm.
feel like that's another common thing, especially in the Black community. We don't talk about our ailments. And, that's important to know your history, because once you can take the proper precautions and, get the proper testing. And if it's caught early, then you have a better prognosis. So, definitely have those conversations. I call them, the difficult conversations. Even,
Hmm.
when we're coming up on the holidays, you're around your family, talk about it.
Hmm. So did you share the whole process? Did you share that publicly online?
hmm I was
You know,
very
I looked, but
open.
I couldn't find it. You post too much, child. I tried to go back.
Yeah, you got to go back 6, 7 years for that.
Yeah, it was I can't scroll anymore here.
So I shared, and I'll say everybody's different with how they handle cancer diagnosis. Some people are private and they want to battle privately. For me, I shared everything, and I drew strength from the support that I received from everyone, my friends, my family. When I had my 5 weeks of radiation, not one day did I go alone, and I was there accompanied with um, somebody's at the door. um, I was accompanied by, friends, family, that, and I think that just made the experience a lot easier for me, because, when you go through a cancer treatment, it's daunting at times.
Hmm.
It is depressing just walking into a room full of people, with bald hair. They're sick. That they're going through cancer, and it just does something to um, your emotional state just to be in that presence. But again, the support, when you have that support system, that makes a world of difference.
Yeah. So tell me about the work. I know you touched on it earlier that you're doing with different organizations surrounding breast cancer.
So yeah, I say breast cancer was one of the worst things that happened to me, but it was also one of the best things that happened to me because
Hmm.
it forced me to evaluate the other cancers in my life that I had swept under the rug.
She did
You
a
know,
quote, y'all.
the
Cancers, quote
cancers, the
cancers.
other cancers. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, it helped me to discover an inner strength in myself that I really didn't know that I had. And it gave me a renewed sense of focus, and purpose. I started working with the Delaware Breast Cancer Coalition in 2021, and I had the privilege of walking alongside of women that may not necessarily have the support. And they come into our organization, fearful, they're afraid, just hopeless. And for me to see the transformation of, having the support of an agency like ours, to being on the other side of it, it's such a rewarding work. It's so much rewarding than any type of work that I've ever done, and I enjoy doing it. So it's my way of giving back, and I like to do it.
Hmm. And what advice can you give to women But not only women, to runners who think that they're healthy and that this could not happen to them.
Well, so there are modifiable risk factors, as anyone can do to reduce the risk of getting breast cancer. And certainly living a healthy, active lifestyle will reduce your risk. We talk about our nutrition, eating nutrient dense foods, drinking our water, getting our rest. All of those things are important. Um, and then not only that, but just certain things that you can do at an earlier age. When you're at childbearing age, breastfeeding can reduce your likelihood of getting breast cancer because
Really?
your milk ducts are active. They're producing milk, and so that can reduce your risk. Also, I think the conversation needs to be had at earlier ages,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we talk about Black women, because
Mm-hmm.
we are diagnosed at later stages and with more aggressive types of cancer. So, triple negative breast cancer is a subtype of breast cancer where it's a lot more aggressive and it's difficult to treat because there aren't targeted therapies. And when I say targeted, I mean you can't treat triple negative breast cancer with radiation. So, chemotherapy is the course of action for triple negative breast cancer. And the unfortunate thing about chemotherapy is that it kills the cancer cells, but it also kills the healthy cells. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, just being mindful of the different things that you can do on this side. Not smoking, you know, reducing your intake of sugary beverages and alcohol use. You drink 2 drinks a day, and that will significantly increase your risk. And so these are conversations that I think are important to have. And then also just maintaining a healthy body weight. So a BMI over 30 is considered obese. So, working with your medical team to identify what is a healthy body weight for you and just really working to keep your numbers at that pace.
Well, you gave the full educational response on that. Listen, some of those things I didn't know. I didn't know the breastfeeding, reduces the risk, so that's good. And the eating dense foods reduces the risk. That's great as well. So very, very knowledgeable, Erica. I appreciate you breaking it down like that.
Of course.
So before I let you go, is there anything else that you want to tell the audience regarding yourself or just regarding breast cancer prevention, care, etc.? What do you want to leave us with?
Well, for me as a breast cancer survivor, breast cancer awareness is not just in October. It is a year-round thing. And as I said, I think that it's important to continue to have these open communications. So I thank you, Kim, for inviting me to share my story and to ring the alarm. I talk about my experience to anyone that will listen with the hopes that, if you've put your mammogram off, maybe it's time that you need to schedule it, and get it
Mm-hmm.
done because healthcare is self-care. It is a form of self-care. And, as Black women, sometimes we put ourselves on the back burner because we take care of everything else. Well, you're important. And,
Mm-hmm.
taking care of your body is important too. So, um, just encourage everyone during this time. And oh, by the way, men do get breast cancer as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Beyonce's
I put that in
father,
my post, women and men. I
yes,
specifically
it
write
be
that.
yeah. So, and I just recently found Richard
Wait,
Roundtree
Beyonce's father had it?
was
I
diagnosed with
had
breast cancer. He had
recently?
the No, it was a while ago, but
Oh,
he
okay.
had the genetic mutation. So best believe Queen Bee is being monitored because that BRCA1 genetic mutation is passed down from parents, and it can go through the father. It's not just from the mother's side. It can go through the father, and so um, I'm sure that she is being watched. And I just found out recently that Richard Roundtree had breast cancer, and
Shaft,
you
that's
know,
Shaft.
Shaft.
Yes, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, and
Wow.
for him, and he shares his story now, but for him, um, it's the embarrassment because men, a male getting breast cancer, it was something he didn't want to talk about it. But
Mm-hmm.
now he is an advocate and he goes and talks about it. And I'm so grateful because, like I said, it doesn't just impact women, it affects men as well.
I need to look up his story. I had no idea about him or Beyonce's father, Matthew
Yep.
Knowles.
Matthew
Wow.
Knowles is a breast cancer survivor.
I'm going to look up both their stories. Thank you for dropping more knowledge on me. But I want to thank you so much for being on the Runway podcast and sharing your story. It is a story that needs to be heard, and I'm sure it's going to help plenty of women and men.
There you go.
They might feel something, and it's so interesting that you and my previous guests both had self-examinations and both felt something and said something. So I commend you, and you're a role model for runners, you're a role model for women, and just keep doing
Thank
what
you.
you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right. I hope you enjoyed my chat with Erica Saunders. I will leave all of her contact information in the episode details so you can follow her on socials. And, I'm just glad that she gave us so much information and just tips, tools, tricks that we can use in life going forward to help us, detect early and preventative care for breast cancer. She was a wealth of knowledge. So I'm so happy that she was able to come on the show and share her story. And that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to tune in for the next one, and I'll catch you then. Later. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Runwave. If you are a runner that has a story to tell, feel free to email hello@therunwave.com or shoot me a DM on Instagram @therunwave. Don't forget to follow The Runwave on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We are The Runwave on all platforms. Subscribe to our email list. It is listed down below in the notes of this show. And subscribe to The Runwave on YouTube. The visual episode of this show will be posted there.